Welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football 88. I'm back. I'd like to thank Rick for spelling me last week.
Did a great job.
I understand he did a very capable job.
Yes, very knowledgeable young man.
Okay, well, since you don't want to talk, let's jump right into it. Our first game we're going to go to, as always, the Minnesota Vikings game against San Francisco. They won at 24-21.
What was that up there? Was that a flash? Hey, let it go inside.
All right. There you see the scores. Probably the one significant for the Vikings was the touchdown run by Steve Young.
A great block by Tom Rathman of the 49ers.
It was a combination of good blocking, lousy tackling, and a pretty good run, I think.
Combination of having Scott Studwell in there at all.
Yeah. And as the Vikings scores, anyone who has Rick Fenny is probably pretty pleased to see him score, and everyone I think I've talked to wants to see him score more. So,
yep.
Wade Wilson had a pretty big day, 9 points. He got one running and passing.
Some question as to whether or not his knee hit the ground before he went over the end zone.
That's all it is, a question, though.
Hey, the score stands.
You might want to play Wilson next week against the Lions in the Metrodome.
The Vikes have to win that game. Of course, they've had to win the last couple games.
Yeah.
But I think they'll do okay against Detroit.
And San Francisco travels to Phoenix. Phoenix has been tough at home. San Francisco, I don't know.
It's not that good.
They're not that good. They might be a little more pumped after this win over the Vikes, but of course they could be in for a letdown too.
Phoenix missed the playoffs. Just barely missed the playoffs last year.
There's a question whether Montana will even play. It was announced he's not going to start. And Rice, who knows if he's going to play or not. If he does, he might not even be 100%. So, who else are you going to play from San Francisco?
Steve Craig.
Young, Roger Craig. That might be a good play, yeah.
Could play Mike Wilson. There's plenty of people there. They beat the Vikings without those guys.
Yeah.
And I know if I was I'm glad Phoenix isn't on our schedule for the Vikings. I'd hate to go down there and play those guys. They're tough.
Okay. Let's move right along.
Okay, next game, New England and Chicago. Flutie got a chance to play against the Bears, shut McMahon's mouth up. He did that. First play from scrimmage, an 80-yard touchdown pass to Irving Kleitmeier, the New England Pats. It's an interesting statistic here. He completed 6 passes all day, 4 for touchdowns. Not a bad percentage. John Stevens, the first running back to run for over 100 yards against the Bears in a long time.
31 games.
He carried Singletary half that distance, a total of 124 yards. McMahon on another questionable touchdown. It's 2 weeks in a row they've given it to him.
I couldn't believe it. I don't think he should have scored on either of them.
I know, it's sad. And I'm really glad he's hurt. He's a real chump.
Don't you have McMahon on your roster?
I do. I got him in a trade, folks. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do. Okay, we got New England at Miami. Miami at New England. And I think
Is New England for real? We'll find out next week.
I think the last 3 games should say that they're for real or not. They beat Cincinnati, who had no losses. They lost because they had a lousy kicker. We'll go into that a little later, too. They lost to Buffalo by 3 points in a game they could have won, and they beat Chicago. Both of those 3 teams had the best records in the NFL going into those games. The deal with Garcia, New England, the kicker, of course, you know that the Patriots were up for sale and they were traded last week. The kicker from Miami is Tony Franklin.
Yeah, I saw that.
$1 million contract with New England. They cut the $1 million contract, makes the team a little bit more easy to sell.
Make it for a little fodder. Vez tough to come back?
Well, he's missed quite a few. Franklin has. He missed some yesterday, so I don't know about that.
There's a little interesting side note to that Chicago game. I happened to be in Chicago last week, is where I was for a business trip, and listening to the Chicago radio stations and the call-in sports shows like they have in town here.
It's enough to make it fall up.
They were... everyone that called and all the DJs and everything were saying that the Bears defense were going to eat Doug Flutie for lunch and spit him out. And I just sat there and thought to myself, well, they shouldn't be shooting their mouths off because New England is tough at home. Yeah. And if there is going to be an upset, that was going to be the game.
And who should know the weaknesses of the defense more than the guy who quarterbacked them, half the games last year. So
I would have loved to hear the Chicago radio stations Monday morning.
Up your Chicago. All right, Tampa Bay goes into Chicago this week with Joe Ferguson, not exactly the most mobile of quarterbacks at the age of 39.
I think he's gonna be eaten for lunch.
I think he might. It's sad too because
Ditka's gonna have those guys frothing at the mouth.
He's gonna be a Hall of Fame quarterback someday, and it's just too bad that he's got to go into something like that. We can just only hope. I think Chicago's going to be able to run on Tampa Bay because they certainly can't pass, not with Tomaszak and
that's true.
Those other clowns. So
could be a big day to play Neil Anderson, maybe.
Don't tell me about that. He hasn't scored in 6 weeks.
Alrighty. Moving on to our next game, we've got Atlanta against Philadelphia, and a big disappointment for Philadelphia, who thought they were going to win. In fact, they were favored by a few points. 27-24, Atlanta won that game. Wide receiver Haynes, I don't even know who this guy is, scored 12 points, 2 touchdowns. The Atlanta defense came through with a fumble recovery, some of the highlights. Chris Carter from Philadelphia scored 2 touchdowns. He's coming on in the absence of Mike Quick.
Right, take up the slack.
And Byers.
It's too late to get that guy easy on a trade.
Got a touchdown, and I don't know. Philadelphia's pretty upset that they lost. They're a big disappointment this year at 4-5. A lot of people picked them to win the division.
Well, when Chris Miller, when he's quarterback, and Atlanta's a different team.
That's true.
He's quite a young quarterback. Somebody to watch. Somebody for the future.
Next week we've got if we had a turkey call, we could probably give it a turkey. The Green Bay travels to Atlanta.
Yeah, well, Green Bay's got something to prove, and like I said, Miller didn't get hurt this week, so he'll play.
He'll play,
so
yeah.
It could be a real good game,
Another good game could be the Rams traveling to Philadelphia.
That sounds better, at least. Bigger towns.
It sounds like a good game. Whether it will be or not is another story. So, moving right along. Okay,
we have the Jets in Pittsburgh. It was a pretty good game. Bubby Brister came back to play his first game in a while, as well as Ernest Jackson. Jackson scored, as well as the rookie running back Carter for the Jets. We got tight end Mickey Schuler. Both the halfbacks, Hector and McNeil, scored, and Leahy kicked a field goal with 3 extra points. It was a pretty good game. One the Jets should have won. They did. They covered the spread, which is pretty rare for them.
Interesting stat for Johnny Hector.
How's that?
He had -1 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And he scored a TD.
He must have got tackled behind the line late in the game. Okay, the Jets get to go to Indianapolis, and God only knows what's going to happen to them after watching Monday night's game. I don't know if they can do it 2 weeks in a row. They were sky high.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Pittsburgh goes to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, after losing to Cleveland, they've got to be hot. They're going to be in front of their hometown fans. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, real big rivalry. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, those teams.
Might be a good day to play some of your Cincinnati players, I think.
Wide receivers. Esiason's going to throw some
Nicky
bombs.
Woods. Might have a big
Brooks, McGee, Brown, Esiason, Breach, name them. They're all there.
Name them, play them.
Okay, next game.
Next game, we get the big Sunday night game on ESPN, Houston against Washington, 41-17. That was...
Sorry, Rick.
That was quite a game.
Oh, we got a box elder bug in here.
So, the highlight of that game was Drew Hill, of course. 3 touchdown catches for 18 points. That's,
he found his hands.
That's a fair game for one person.
Oh, yeah.
18 points.
After dropping all those in...
Would have beat me last week, single-handedly. Warren Moon had 1 run and 3 touchdown passes. He had a good game.
That was a nice touchdown run he made, too. It looked like he was going to run the option like he did in college. He held the ball up there, and just before he decided to go in, he faked to Rozier and Highsmith, and we're going on the outside, and he cut in. Looked good.
And Smith and got a touchdown pass.
Griffin, yeah. Tim Smith, he hasn't been in the end zone for a long time.
Okay, next week, big game. Cleveland goes to Houston. That's the Monday night game.
Well, you saw how tough Houston is at home.
That's right. They are tough at home.
And it's a nationally televised game. That's another one. Are they going to be able to get up that high?
2 weeks in a row. It's tough.
And Cleveland just came off a big game against it.
can't do it.
We're watching Steve. Look.
Oh, he is so gorgeous. I'd love to meet him sometime.
He doesn't smoke.
Yeah, he doesn't even want to be around smokers.
Come on, Kathy, get with it. Smoking's out.
Yeah.
Don't be left out of the crowd. Don't smoke. The American Heart Association. We're fighting for your life.
Welcome back.
Yeah, you like to see that blonde jug up the beach?
Yeah. Nice PSA. We might run that every week.
Is that what those are called?
Public service
Oh,
announcements.
those.
Well, I believe you lead off again.
I'm leading off. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Is it Miami and Tampa? Is that what we're doing?
I believe so.
All right, that's a good game to start with.
When the graphics come up, we'll see if we're right.
Well, we have to wait.